The team that finished in 5th last season, the Buffalo Sabres. Another toss-up of a team in my estimation here. Obviously, last season, 47 goals, the emergence of Tage Thompson. They still have a lot of younger guys in this lineup. The Dylan Cousins of the world. Dylan Cousins is only 22. JJ Peterka, Rasmus Dahlin, of course, is only 23 at this stage. Owen Power. They're another one of those teams with a lot of that younger talent in the lineup. And the biggest X factor for them has to be goaltending as well. Devin Levi was mentioned earlier. I mean, it'll be him and Eric Comrie, presumably, as the 1-2 punch. Maybe you work in Luukkonen and Tokarski as well. But Devin Levi will be given every chance to be the guy heading into the season for the Sabres. But I still can't help but wonder about that defensive depth in a way. Especially when you are paying over $6.5 million against the cap hit for Eric Johnson and Connor Clifton, who are in a good spot at, third pairing guys, but overpaid. And how could that money have been utilized otherwise to maybe make something happen? I still stand by the fact that or not necessarily the fact, but it is a fact in that they should go after Trevor Zegras. The fact that the Anaheim Ducks are dicking around Trevor Zegras still. Buffalo, what? Why? Why would you not? How many historic trades have there been between the Sabres and the Ducks? And with how teams turn over GMs. Oh, well, I can't piss off this guy because, well, then you might not make this trade down. There are 31 other teams, good sir. There's always room to make a trade. You have, I believe, it's the second highest or the third most cap space left in the league at 8.7. Force their hand. Offer sheet Trevor Zegras, because right now with that team, I could see them making the playoffs. I could see them missing. I'm a broken record with this division. Mm-hmm. But if your top 3 centers are Thompson, Zegras, and Cousins, you're a playoff team. Unless the rest of the team collapses out from underneath you. Buffalo has the chance to do something so entertaining.
I would even play him on the wing. I would play Zegras on the wing. Like if I was Buffalo, especially because Cousins making 7.1, you don't necessarily want to throw him onto the third line with that.
That's true.
Also being said, there's another little player there that's a bit of a wild card that they acquired from Vegas that's kind of overlooked because of, how good Tuck has been. But Peyton Krebs, he was a former 17th overall pick. He was Vegas's top prospect. So, of course, in traditional Vegas fashion, they traded him. It worked, I know. But, yeah, he's like, I don't know. I always looked at him, especially when he was on Vegas, as like, maybe middle 6 type guy. Jury's still out on him. He's now 22. He needs a shot. I think if he doesn't really get a shot, at least on the third line, maybe on the wing or something, you got to move him and try to get something back because, I don't know. I think as, 17th overall pick again, like move it, use it or lose it, I think. And if you're Buffalo in the center, especially, it's so tough. Because you're seemingly so loaded there. And, if you go after Zegras, I think, number one, you play him on the wing anyway. I don't think they're gonna because the NHL is freaking lame, and they don't offer sheet anyone.
That's true.
Unless the whole Kotkaniemi thing. Yeah, I don't know. I just,
yeah. I was going to say, we tried with Aho. Look what happened. I think Buffalo is going to be really, really interesting. Like, saying all those points are perfect. They're honestly, Zegras on the wing would just be Tuck, Thompson, Zegras. Oh, like that just, oh man, like
that's perfect.
Awesome. Like, I'm when I look at their team, like I think the thing for me too is you mentioned with Ottawa, they have that number 1 forward, they have that number 1 defenseman, they don't have the goalie. If you gave me $100 and I had to pick on who would get all 3 first. My money's going on Buffalo. Like Endo mentioned, like Devin Levi might make history here with how big of a jump he's going to make. And if he's that good and he's that like dominant as he showed a little bit there last season, like they have the pieces, they have the goalie, they have the defense, they have 2 defensemen. They can trade one of them and they still have a number 1 defenseman. They have the forwards. I'm a little high. I'm a little high on Buffalo. I have to admit. I don't know why. As a divisional rival, I don't know why I'm so high on them, but I just love the way like their team looks. Not to mention they're sitting on. Next year is going to be a little tricky because like I think every single defenseman's up. Like Dahlin's up for extension. Powers obviously another RFA up for extension, but like Thompson's on probably like top 2 best deals in the NHL. He's making $7.1 million.
Until
like,
2030.
Till 20, like that's incredible. Like even Dylan Cousins, like if he continues on this trajectory, he's making 7.1. That could look like a bargain in 2 years.
Yeah.
Even. So I'm pretty high on Buffalo. I mean, like even their third line on daily faceoff, Victor Olofsson, decent. Peyton Krebs, which as Sin mentioned, if he starts to pick it up too, and Jordan Greenway, like that's a surprisingly good third line sitting right there. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those guys put 20 goals up.
They are, if not already, like they're entering a window, essentially. Yeah. You get Cousins and Thompson signed to deals like that. You can't be dicking around anymore. Yeah. Like this is the time to now make the most of this core that you've built up. And in some ways, a little bit out of nowhere, because I don't think anybody expected Tage Thompson to be a 47 goal scorer at any point. But hey, sometimes that's how things play out. So, this year is obviously the year that they're looking like, okay, we got to take that step forward, make the playoffs. I think they very well could. But then we get into the top 4 of this division. And again, this is why it's so tough. Because, again, the Metro, as we'll talk about later on, you can't necessarily say that it would only be 3 teams from the Metro to make the playoffs. It's certainly a possibility. But it's tough to imagine a scenario where any of the top 4 from the Atlantic aren't playoff teams again. And I know the Sabres only missed by 1 point last year, but that was also in part due to the Florida Panthers, who we're going to talk about next, nearly shitting the bed